staring at my cabinet thinking about what I want to make because I'm hungry. I just got home from classes.
Oh, got you.
All right, just to confirm, can you guys all see? It should say it should show what's on my TV, and it should just say Leadership Academy, and that should be all that you see on the screen.
Yes.
All right, beautiful. Well, let's go ahead and get started. First off, for all of you guys joining us tonight, we have in the office, we have Kayla, we have Tiffany, and we have Kevin. And then we have a bunch of people on teleconference. And I am also going to be recording this. I was talking to Nick Gerlach about this earlier today. But last year I did record them and I sent out recordings. But this year I'm going to take it to a whole new level. I actually spent part of my weekend and part of the day building out an entire website. It's going to have a members area. And it's going to be like an online course that is Leadership Academy. So for some people, their schedules just don't align with me or with Kate to be able to do Leadership Academy live. So they'll be able to do the recording. And for all of you guys, you'll have access to be able to go back and rewatch the modules as needed. So I am really, really excited for tonight. And I just want to start off just by congratulating you guys on being here. I am actually going to go through and just mute everybody because there is some background noise. But I'm also going to ask, I'd like you guys to engage and participate. So if you'd be kind enough, just unmute yourself to participate and then remute yourself just to eliminate background noise. But I want to start off by congratulating you guys. If you look back on the summer, I know full well there were a lot of wins, a lot of successes, a lot of things that went right. There was also a lot of the opposite of that. There was a lot of things that did not go right or the way that we wanted. And quite frankly, in the process, you guys, myself included, I'm not putting this all on you, made a ton of mistakes, did a lot of things that you thought was the right thing, and it just was not, right? And you learned a ton in the process. And quite frankly, you guys all had peers and colleagues and coworkers that had the same experiences, and their response to some of the challenges or adversity was to quit, to give up, and to go start over somewhere else. And you guys are the ones that persisted, the ones that produced and performed. And I want to congratulate you on that, because earning a spot in Leadership Academy doesn't come easily. And I want to tell you guys that I appreciate you for the work that you've done so far. And I'm tremendously excited for what we're going to get done together over the coming weeks and months. I want to start off by asking each of you to share. And what I'd like to do is pick on one person at a time and just ask you guys to share. If you can unmute yourself if you're on teleconference, and then share, then remute yourself. But Carissa, I'm going to start with you. Hopefully you're not eating yet. But I'd like to start with you, if you can unmute yourself for me.
Okay,
and
yeah.
Share, please, either one piece of hot news or just one thing that you appreciate. Can be inside Vector, can be outside Vector, but one piece of hot news or one thing that you appreciate, please.
So I just moved into my apartment like a few days ago. Started college today. It was fun.
Yeah.
So that's news.
That is news. That's awesome, by the way. Also, I don't know if I sent this message to some of you and not all of you, but Carissa did, I think, 2 appointments yesterday. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But
yeah.
she sold over $2,000 yesterday and officially hit Dirty 30. I owe you a hat next time I see you, girlfriend. So well done. And thank you for sharing. Miss Madison, would you be kind enough to share next one thing you appreciate or one piece of hot news? Or not? Okay. Miss Becky, can I get you?
Well, nothing crazy too far, but I have set a new goal for myself, and I hope to take my mom to Rome next year. So that's in the works. But
that's outstanding. Take your mom to Rome. Did I hear that correctly?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Very cool. Thank you for sharing. Miss Madison, are you? Yeah, there you are.
Yes, I'm situated now. Sorry. Things were popping up on my phone, so I couldn't do 2 things at once. I'm sorry. Well, last week was first week of classes, back to school, new dorm, new roommate, everything like that. Went to the Panthers game on Friday, so that was interesting.
And they took all of your money on swag.
No, I went for free because my friend invited me.
I'm saying the hat and the shirt. Looks like they got your money on the swag.
No, that's just my mascot at WCU. So.
Oh, nice.
I got some awesome adventures so far. So It's
Very
pretty good.
cool. For what it's worth, by the way, Becky, I really enjoyed talking to you this morning. It was fun to reconnect with you. And for Madison, I haven't talked to you in like weeks, so I'm glad to see you and hear you again. I've missed you. Thank you for sharing, by the way. And then Will, we couldn't hear you earlier, and I know you just finished a game, so I don't know if you're able to engage or not. But yeah, all right, unmuted. Would you mind sharing, please, what's hot or what you appreciate?
Yeah, after about a year of being injured, I just completed my first 2 practices back in training, so that was pretty exciting.
That's outstanding, dude. Very cool. I'm glad for that. Was today a practice or a game?
No, today was a game.
That's awesome. Did you win?
No, we did not.
Damn. But at least you got some playing time. It's good to have you back again. And again, it's very similar to Madison. Haven't talked to you in weeks, and I'm just glad to see you and hear you again, brother. And then for Miss Kayla, would you mind sharing one piece of hot news or one thing you appreciate?
No, Kayla. I don't know. My trip to Mexico was very relaxing. So,
You want to share with everybody who didn't already hear one or two of the highlights?
yeah. I swam with dolphins. That was fun. I flipped the ATV over. That was fun. And fell on the ground, slid into the jungle. So that was great.
By the way, for Carissa and Madison, you guys probably never knew Kayla was that adventurous.
I'm not. Like, that was the first time I've ever been adventurous in my life. It was crazy.
And you came back with stories.
I was a different person. Parasailing. What else did we do? Oh, I went horseback riding too. That was fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad I love the stories of Kayla Harris being adventurous. Thank you. By the way, Tiffany and Kevin, if you guys can speak loud because the computer mic doesn't pick up that well, but if you wouldn't mind sharing, Tiffany.
Yeah, I'm excited to start school tomorrow, and I'm taking a ceramics class, and I like ceramics a lot. So.
That's awesome. Very cool. Thank you for sharing. And then Mr. Kevin.
Yeah, so the beginning of this year, I actually didn't know that I was gonna travel a lot this year. So since I haven't traveled since I was like 12, like any part of the globe, but I'm actually going to Mexico in December. I'm going to Bali October 25th, and I'm also thinking about winning the 10,000 whatever this what's it called, the Santa Monica thing. Yeah, I hope to go to California, and I'm trying to go to the tennis conference. So that'll be, I don't even know where it is. Miami?
Miami.
Yeah, something. 4 places, yeah.
Cool.
I wasn't even expecting it.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
By the way, some of you guys haven't met Kevin. He started right after SC2 was over and has sold $9,000 so far. He's at $2,000 for the week, and he's got another 1,600 to go.
Yeah, that's right.
To be able to hit Dirty 30 tonight and win Santa Monica. So root for Kevin, cheer him on. Don't you not hit it is all I'm saying.
Okay, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. I'll share too. Inside Vector, I'm really just appreciative for this group and to be able to do this. I've been looking forward to it. And I was even texting Kate earlier today. She has her group of people. And I was like, man, I got like that nervous anxiety. We're like, I'm pumped, I'm excited. And now I'm just like waiting, you know? So I'm pumped for that. And also Outside Vector, our rugby season started last week. We've been doing a lot of running. I think we get to start hitting people tomorrow. So Carissa will be glad for me to get all of my energy out there. My wife, Carissa, just for the record. Every time. And also next week, I already know what hot news I'll have, but I'm going to wait until next week is all I'm saying. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to ask you guys, please, if you can make sure your phones are either silent or do not disturb, just so you can be focused with us. And I would recommend either having notes on your laptop or on a notebook, but have them in a spot where you can keep it organized and have it all together. And I want to start off just by sharing why it's worth it. You know, quite frankly, doing Leadership Academy, for people inside Vector, this is what we do, right? This is like the thing that we look forward to, and you guys are excited about it. But for people outside Vector, if you've talked to any of your friends or classmates about it, they probably don't understand. They're like, why are you doing that? Especially at night after the first day of school for many of you guys. And I just want to share with you, right? It's not just the training. It is the training though, right? We'll teach you the practical skills, and we're a big believer that leaders are born, that leaders are not born, they're made. and we're going to provide you the practical training, the hard skills, and the soft skills. We're also going to teach you the management skills, which is a separate entity. One of the things I'm most excited about, and I don't know how closely you guys have looked at the syllabus yet, but I've got 3 whole sections just on finances, and I've read a ton of books about this. I've learned a ton, and I'm super excited to bring that to you as well. And then the thing that we can't measure, can't quantify, but the personal growth. And I know Kayla or Bryce or John Tevis, any of them would definitely share with you the level of personal growth. I was talking to someone, I forget even who it was, but they were like, man, looking at my classmates now, I'm a completely different person. I'm on a different level and in the most positive professional way possible. But they're like, man, after one summer after Leadership Academy, just I'm vibrating on a whole different wavelength from where the rest of my classmates are. And some of you guys have heard the concept of being 20 years old, but a vector 20, right? And that really does mean something. And you guys are going to grow into that and experience that. And the skills are transferable, you know, and you guys already know, and we'll share if I can get my screens working. Here we go, right? You guys already know about the 4 paths, right? One of them is that you go through Leadership Academy, you do the 8 months of training, become a better version of yourself. And 8 months from now, I guess probably 7 months will be wiser, but 7 months from now, you're putting out applications and resumes and applying for other jobs and pursuing a new chapter. For some of you guys, you're going to pursue the sales opportunities, whether it's being an FSM or possibly a CSP. For many of you guys, getting involved with our events team. There will be some of you who choose the assistant manager route. We have a couple different levels within that I'll share in a little bit. And for some of you guys, you're going to be pursuing the branch or the district manager opportunity. And I'm biased, but that one's my favorite. But all 4 paths are viable and valuable options. And the goal is that whatever of the 4 paths you choose, that we're going to equip you for it. One thing I just want to remind you of, and this isn't new, and I know that many of us talked about it as you were preparing for your Leadership Academy interviews, and I know Kate's talked about it with you as well, but I do want to remind you, because it is important, that you don't need to know what you're going to be doing next summer, today, or tomorrow, or next week, or next month, or really honestly until 2019 is when we'll start figuring that stuff out. And some of you guys have heard this analogy before, but I think it's relevant especially for those of us who haven't talked in a couple of weeks, and as a reminder. But there are some people that go to college, and they go to college like, I'm going to this school, I'm going to study pre-med, then I'm going to this grad school, I'm going to study medicine, and I'm going to be a neuro whatever, right, or a specific type of doctor. And they go through college, and that's exactly what they end up doing. And there are some people that do the same thing here, where they go through Leadership Academy, and they're like, I'm going to be a branch, I'm going to be a branch, I'm going to be a branch, and then they're a branch, right? There are other people that go to college, and they're like, man, I really want to major in this. They start studying it. They get to the first or second or even the 3rd year, and then they're like, man, I really don't like this major, right? This is not what I want to do with my life. That was me, by the way. I used to think I wanted to be a pilot. I applied for a flying college. I was taking flying lessons. And then I realized about halfway through, I was like, I really never want to fly another airplane for the rest of my life. And so I changed everything. I changed my school, changed my major, the whole 9 yards. And there are people that do the exact same thing. John Tevis is one of the entertaining ones that come to mind, because he went through Leadership Academy. He's like, I'll do anything but branch, anything but branch, anything but branch. And then he was a branch not once, but twice. That just entertains me. And then there are some people, and I know this is some of you guys like literally in college, that they go to college, like, I really don't know what I want to do. Right? I don't know what I want to do after college. I don't even know what I want to major in, but I know I want to be in college, you know? And then as you go through the process, you figure it out. And the same thing happens here. In Vector, by the way, that was me. I was the one like, yeah, I really don't know what I want to do after college. I don't know if I want to be a branch or not, or I didn't know. But I committed to the Leadership Academy process, and I turned out okay. And I just want to remind you as we start the process here that no matter which of the 4 paths you're most excited about or thinking about or leaning towards, you don't need to make a commitment. And I'd encourage you not to. I'd encourage you to just commit to the process, you know, and as we go through the process together, it will become very apparent which of you guys should be leaving Vector, which of you should be assistants or sales or branch. It makes itself very clear as we go through the process. And I know Kayla, since you're here, you could vouch for that. It just kind of, it always shakes out, you know? So I just want to encourage you guys there. I do want to share, though, what we're building. And I've got on the slides here the vision of what we're building for 2019, and I was mapping this out. and what looks like we are going to be able to do. And I'm really excited for this group of people. By the way, this is not in my notes, but I'll share completely candidly, completely unplanned, unfiltered, but I can tell you with 100% sincerity, I am more excited about this group of Leadership Academy candidates than I've ever been in my entire 13-year career. And that's a testament to you guys. And I was mapping out, like, where could everybody go? Where could the pieces of the puzzle fit? And I'll just share with you what looks like we're going to be able to get done this year is promoting 2 to 3 or 4 district managers next year, having 1 or 2 senior branch managers, having 2 to 3 assistant managers in each of our senior branch offices, having 5 to 9 branch managers for the first year, potentially promoting a new CSP. That's going to depend on some visa stuff in Japan, right? And then having a fully staffed pilot here in Anne Arundel County, and that's going to include a recruiting manager, a sales manager, and a productivity manager, as well as a couple of part-time assistants and a field assistant as well. And there's lots of positions to fill. So I just want to let you guys know, right? There's no need for a commitment right now, one way, shape, or form or the other. But as we continue through the next 8 months, and we're going to be adding new people along the way as we go, there's a lot of exciting stuff, and there's opportunities across the entire board that I'm really, really excited about. And then I don't know how much you guys are going to care about this. Hopefully you care a lot. Hopefully you care a lot. But when I was mapping out what that could look like, right, our average branch manager this summer did $100,000, which I'm really proud of, because when we went, Kayla, you remember this, in October of 2017, that was what we started talking about, was we need to have a $100,000 branch average, and that's exactly what we got done. And next year, what I'm looking at is that our average branch does $100,000 again, and our top producers do 200. And then for our districts, similar. The average should be a little bit higher than 100. Our top people should do 200 plus. And when we put it all together, my pilot office doing 500 to 750,000. That puts us at $1.5 to $2.1 million just in 2019 alone, which is going to be fired up, and that'll be in a lot of cool things across the board for all of you guys. So one thing I do want to mention really quick, and I'm going to ask you guys to take some notes here, and I am going to ask all of you for a number. So I'm going to ask you to write a few things down, and then I'm going to ask all of you guys to give me a number. But I want to talk about sales for a moment. Okay, and I'll just tell you very openly, I started off by putting sales on the board on purpose. And I know full well that some of you guys, as you were putting your numbers up or sharing them, you were proud, right? I know for certain Carissa was like, I don't know how many demos I did, but I sold 2,500. You put that up there, right? I know for some of you guys, it was planned to be a 0, right? It was not unexpected that it was a 0, but even still, you're like 0. And I know how that feels too. And I just want to share with you guys, that was intentional, and I know the feels. But I want to clarify just 2 things really quick. Number one, in terms of your sales expectations, it's quite frankly going to be different for each one of you guys. Typically, someone who's a full-time college student taking 15 to 18 credits, and they're doing extracurriculars and activities, but they're not like the president of a fraternity or the captain of the softball team, softball, soccer. Sorry, that was where that came from. Typically, those students are doing between 5 and 8 appointments per week. Typically, someone who's either not a student or they're taking like 1 or 2 classes or online classes, typically they're doing more like 15, 20, 30 appointments a week. I know for me personally, when I was doing this, it was before the virtual demo was invented, so things were a little different. But quite frankly, I was taking 18 credit hours per semester, and I was playing rugby, which was a club team, but it still required 2 workouts on my own every week, 2 practices per week, and 1 game per week. So I was doing rugby 5 days a week. And quite honestly, my work schedule varied depending on if we had a home game or an away game, right? The away games just took a lot of travel and time. So my schedule varied based on that. And why do I say all that? I just want you guys to know there's not a right answer or a wrong answer, but I do want you guys to have an answer. Does that make sense? Right. By the way, we have some Leadership Academy students that only sell in the summertime and the winter break. They really don't sell during the school year. And I'll just tell you very openly, some of you guys wouldn't know this, but in the past, that's been kind of not okay. And this year I decided to make it okay. Right. I know there are a couple of you guys that quite literally are either the captain of your soccer team or the president of a sorority or moving in that direction. So for some of you guys, if the answer is 0, the answer is 0. But I do want you guys to think about, by the way, that equally, some of you guys, the answer can't be 0, right? Like some of you guys, your income needs don't line up with a 0, you know? But either way, too many words for a simple topic. Welcome back, Kayla. It's been a while. But I just want you guys to know there's not a right or a wrong answer, but I am going to ask you for an answer of what you think you could do in a typical week. And I'd like you to write that down. Not a commitment to sales per se, but a commitment to demos. What do you think you could do in a typical week? And if it's between 5 and 8, wonderful. If it's 3 to 5, wonderful. If it's 15, 20. I think, Kevin, you were talking about 25 earlier.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And then for each of you guys, we'll follow up. And if your answer is 0, so be it, right? But if it's not 0, especially for those of you who are away at school and you still want to be working and making money, I know the dynamic changes when you don't have a physical office to go into. So we'll strategize and make a plan for you guys. But I just want you guys to think about that. What I also want to put on your radar is Labor Day. Okay, Labor Day. Labor Day is next week. And it is a massive opportunity for sales. Massive, for a couple of reasons. Number one, especially for the college students, just the availability, right? The fact of having a Sunday open and a Monday, and especially for people that work in the government or any kind of corporation that honors the government holidays. They have Sunday and Monday. It's a 3-day weekend. And it's one of the best 3-day weekends. Quite honestly, July 4th and Memorial Day, those are great holiday Mondays or weekdays to sell on. But they're travel days. I don't know if you guys remember. Some of you guys started after the fact. But freaking Memorial Day, that was our last Monday holiday. And everybody was like, I'm going to the beach. I'm out of town. We're on vacation. And you guys had to freaking fight and battle, for those of you who had started at that point, to get demos around Memorial Day weekend. July 4th was worse, because it was on a Wednesday. And I don't know if you guys remember, but it was like the week before July 4th. People were like, oh, we're out of town. We'll come back on the 5th. And then there was more people who were like, oh, we're leaving on the 4th. We'll come back next week. Right? And you were just freaking battling to get people home. But Labor Day is awesome because all the high schools and all the grade schools, they start back on Tuesday. They start after, so most people aren't really going anywhere. Right? A lot of the beaches, they're jacking up their rates, and the beaches are starting to get a little bit colder. I don't know if you guys have gone swimming lately, but I was in my pool the other day, and I don't know what happened. The air hasn't been colder, but the pool was freezing. So a lot more people just stay home, right? And especially if you're a college student and you're busy, man, it just opens up an opportunity for you. So I wanted you guys to think about that, right? And I know for some of you, you're already working a consistent, stable schedule. Just FYI, by the way, the Vector Week usually ends on Monday, but because Monday is a federal holiday, it'll actually end on Tuesday. Right? So I know there are some of you guys who are not college students. You're just working like normal. And all it means is you have an extra day that'll count for your paycheck. For some of you guys, what you could be thinking about is, man, I really haven't thought that far ahead. I didn't even know Monday was a holiday. And you're just now realizing that there's no school on Monday. And you might be thinking, maybe I could do a couple demos. Maybe I could do a little bit and get some extra income coming in. I'm just going to wager that some of you guys have already spent more money at school than you anticipated. And some of you guys, today was the first day. I'm just guessing, but it's always that way. So either way, I know I'm talking a lot because I want to give you guys an opportunity to think. But I am going to ask you, and Tiffany, if you've got better handwriting than Kayla, if you can help me facilitate this one. But I am going to ask you guys to share. What would you like to get done this coming week, knowing that Sunday and Monday is Labor Day weekend, in terms of appointments and CPO? And for those of you on teleconference, if you would mind just unmuting, sharing, and remuting, same as you did last time, please.
Hey, Caleb, what is Labor Day again?
Monday, a week from today.
Okay.
Caleb?
It's a Tuesday weekend.
Yeah, so 10 to 15.
Cool. And Madison and Becky are ready when you're ready for them? Yeah.
Yep.
Just FYI, you can look on here and see who's unmuted. That tells you they're ready to go.
Cool.
Mhm.
Your appointment goals and your CPO goals. Madison?
Sorry. Probably about 5, and then CPO goals is maybe 1,500.
My demo goal is like 6, and CPO probably past 18,000.
18,000.
Not for the week. I get it. I forget how much. Becky, what are your total sales now?
Total sales probably like 10,000 or so, a little bit past it. I know I hit 30.
Cool. Put a number. I know what she's thinking. I'm just struggling with the maths.
Okay.
Cool. Miss Carissa or Mr. Will? Sorry, I know you're opposite way.
Carissa?
Oh, I didn't know who was going first. I can go first. I don't care.
Either or.
Okay, well, so I'm probably not going to work during the week, but, like, I'll probably work Sunday and Monday. So I would say, like, 6 appointments. And then, like, yeah, like 1,500. No, just kidding. Just kidding. No, like 2,500.
I wasn't laughing at the number. I was laughing at all of you guys like that 1,500 number.
Oh, no, I was laughing at myself. It's fine. But,
Nice.
yeah. 25.
Will?
My demo goal is 0, and my CPO goal is 0.
Cool. I appreciate you being honest. Thank you.
25 for appointments and 3,000 to 3,500. Yeah. For CPO.
Cool. That's perfect. For all of you guys, thank you for sharing. Will, I appreciate your honesty. So thank you for that. Just FYI, for those of you, and again, especially for those of you that are away at college, I've talked to a couple of you, like Becky, about teleconferencing in for our meetings and doing it even though she's physically not near an office, to still teleconference in and engage. I know for Carissa, you got a sweet spot because you have an off-campus apartment and a car, and you have access to physically come to my office, to physically go to the Baltimore office, or just teleconference. So you have some options. And then either way, if you guys need help to make a plan, I'm happy to partner up and design a plan that'll work for you. One thing
I have a question about that, actually. So my classes changed. So I have classes from 9:30 to 8 at night pretty much every single night now.
Oh, gross.
So, yeah, it really sucks. But, yeah.
It's fine. Do me a favor. We'll talk about that one-on-one, but we can definitely work something out. No worries, as long as you don't have class right now.
No.
Okay, cool. We'll work something out. No worries. And then one thing I do want you guys to have in your notes is that we have 2 push weeks in the fall. And for those of you who were able to attend COC, you heard about them there. But the first one is called the SLC Push. It's one of the only national rep pushes of the entire year. It starts on September 18th. And it goes up until October 1st. So there will be 2 weekends in there. And just FYI, I talked to Earl Kelly today. The region is working on a sick contest for you guys. It's going to be dirty. I don't have the details on it yet, but even Earl was like, I've never done something like this. It's going to be good. So just FYI, there will be some really excited prizes and awards to go after. And I am going to ask all of you guys, and again, right, there's no wrong answer. But as much as you're able, I'm going to ask you to contribute to help the team and also to win swag for yourself, but also to help the team. And also to help the team, right? We could use your help for sure to represent. Here's what I wanted to spend most of our time on for this evening, is talking about our encounters with leadership. And quite frankly, at this point, all of you guys have had positive experiences with leadership, things that have stood out and impacted you in a positive way. And it could be in school, it could be in Vector, it could be in sports, it could be in your own family. But you've all had positive experiences. And you've also all had negative experiences with leadership. And leadership is one of those things, right? It's hard to define, it's hard to quantify, but we know it when we see it. And we know when it's missing when we see it, right? So what I wanted to ask, and I'm going to give you guys just a couple minutes to write down your own thoughts, and then we'll share. But I'd like you to take a couple minutes to write down a couple experiences you've had with good leadership, right? A time that someone either motivated you or inspired you, helped you either individually or as a team to get through a challenge or to become a better version of yourself. And then I'd also like you to think about and write down just one or two experiences with poor leadership, where someone talked to you and they either demotivated you or they tried to have a conversation with the team and the team got worse, not better. Right? Or where someone, quite frankly, had a conversation with you and you were like, yeah, I would have done that completely differently. Cool. I'd like to have some of you guys share, preferably positive ones first. Yeah, let's do positive ones first, and then we'll come back around for less than positive ones. But who wants to share one of their experiences? And I can also share my own if you guys want to hear them, but I'd like to hear yours first.
I thought you were supposed to end on good.
We'll get there.
Okay. You said positive ones first. I thought you were supposed to be bad first.
Okay, so negative experience with leadership. Kayla right now, back-talking me.
No, because
I'm just
normally
kidding.
you say end on
I
the good
know,
notes. That's
I
why I
know.
was asking.
Also, this is being recorded for posterity, so.
That's why I was asking.
But yeah, let's do the positive ones first, and then we'll come back to the negative ones, and then I'll find a way to make it positive again at the end. Do you want to share?
Positive ones. For one, like this summer, I had a lot of good calls with Shelby. Just like when I was.
If you don't mind, by the way, speak loud.
Yeah. So this summer, I had a lot of good calls with Shelby Wildgust. When I was like struggling with stuff or just like needed advice on stuff, as well. And then just in the past as well, when I was like struggling with sales or even just like stuff like in my life, I had a lot of good talks with Ben Howard and stuff like that. Like at events, if I wasn't doing well at an event, and I was getting like on like the negative side or so, he always said something to motivate me. I don't necessarily like remember specific details. I know you probably want me to get into that.
It's all good.
I don't remember specific details. Are we going through everyone first and then doing negative or
Yeah.
going positive? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm done then.
By the way, if you're able, by the way, also extract out, like, what can we learn from it? So share the experience, and then if you can take away a lesson, do. Kevin, you want to go?
Sure. There's two things that I learned from Tiffany and John. So let's start with Tiffany. Tiffany showed leadership because she encouraged me to ask customers for more referrals and not leave until I actually have like 5 referrals. So that's actually the reason why I'm able to get like 10 or 15. So I won't stop until they actually just say no. They're just like straight up with me. Also, John helped. He showed me how to get more calls done in a shorter amount of time. So I'm not sure if you guys knew this, but I did 3 hours of calls, and I only got 35 calls done. Today I did 1 hour of calls, and I got 31 done.
Nice.
A lot better. And then, should I say bad experiences?
Not yet.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Well, I'd like to get one or two more good experiences. Anybody who wants to go, whether it's Tiffany or someone on teleconference. Yeah, let's get Becky. Yeah, Becky. I saw you on mute. I assume you're ready to go.
Okay. Well, I guess from recently, I know I talked to John not too long ago, and I was telling him how I was struggling with trying to get my momentum back in school and everything. And so I guess we decided to commit to making phone calls every morning and just checking in and making sure I stick to my goal and making sure I hit all my demos and everything. So,
if I can ask, and this isn't for me, but what, because also Kevin mentioned a conversation where, quite frankly, and I'm not, just to be clear, this isn't for me, but Kevin, you mentioned a conversation where you did a thing, I addressed the thing, and then you did better going forward, right? Becky, similar, did a thing, we talked about the thing, and now you've got a plan to improve going forward. So for either of you guys, like what about the conversation? And again, to be clear, I'm not stroking my own ego, but what can you take away from that you're like, that was the lesson that I could use going forward?
I'd probably say taking the time to actually sit down and plan out my schedule like thoroughly, especially with like adding classes and also still working at Home Depot. And yeah, no sleep, making a time for my phone calls, especially since I can't make Wednesdays and all that. But yeah, that's mostly what it's like, just taking a special time, at least probably like Sundays, and just thoroughly go through my schedule. So,
or if I can ask more specifically, and maybe I'll try again. What about that conversation? Not the conversation itself, because that obviously just changes on the scenario. But what about the conversation made it a positive leadership experience that you could have a similar type of conversation with one of your reps?
So for me, personally, that is just being like brutally honest with like the person who just like tell them straight up, you waste too much time doing this, and this. It's a lot. I like it because it gets to the point, and you don't waste time. You're just like not like sugarcoating it. It's like, fix this maybe, but no, you just like tell them exactly, and then saves time, and then it improves like our results, of course.
If I can ask, when we had the conversation, and granted, it was a very pointed, somewhat intense conversation at 8 a.m., no less.
Yeah.
But after the conversation, how did you feel?
A lot better.
Right. Just as an example, did you feel like I was beating you up, knocking you down?
No, not at all.
Disrespected?
No, not at all. Actually, I think I over-exaggerated when I said you were like pointing out the bad thing. But I was.
It was intense.
Yeah. But yeah, I just like, for me, I like when like people like are like hard on me, so then I know what to do better. And I'll just say, what was the question again?
You got it. You got it. I do appreciate that feedback, by the way.
Okay.
I'll share my experience, and I'll share something that I've also working on myself, and then we'll move into the negative ones. Some of the people for me that strike me as some of the best leaders, I'm proud to say, are in Vector. Some of the names that come to my mind, most of you don't know these people yet, but Jason Flynn, the original guy that helped pioneer the video demo that we all use. John Kane, who's the right-hand man to Aldi Leonardo, our CEO. Some of you guys have gotten to meet Al at this point, but Leonardo himself, and also Amar DeVay, who used to be my region manager. So he was to me what Earl Kelly is to you guys before Amar got promoted to be the senior vice president. And the four of those guys, the biggest thing that comes to my mind is that they're all real humans. They're normal people, right? They eat pizza, they drink wine, they're human beings. And they're not on a pedestal. But all of them make people feel good, right? I remember going to a meeting with Jason Flynn, and there were a bunch of people that I didn't know and didn't recognize. There was one person who, if we can be honest, really shouldn't have been there. right? Their manager was like, I don't want him to go to the meeting, so I'll take this young, like 19-year-old assistant manager who had only sold $3,000. And he was like, you go to the meeting with the guy from corporate, because he didn't want to go. That manager is no longer with us, by the way, if you want to talk about bad leadership. But staying on the positive leadership, I remember this kid felt so out of place, so like unprepared, and really wasn't feeling good. And Jason Flynn, who's like corporate head honcho, went down and sat with them and just talked to this kid for like 10 minutes. And I watched the conversation. And the kid went from being super unconfident to feeling like he didn't belong to feeling like he was on top of the world. And I was like, man, I want that skill. I want to be able to sit there and just make someone feel good, because we believe that when people feel good, they do good. And there's so many people in Vector that embody that. So that's one for me, just people that make people feel good. And then there's another one. It's Grant Cardone, my business coach. All of you guys know about him. But I'll tell you, one of the biggest things I love about Grant is that he's a married man. I forget how many years, but he's got his wife. They're super happy together. He's got 2 kids that are freaking incredible. Their kids have their kids. I think the oldest one is 9 or 10. And they have their own podcast and their own TV show. And granted, daddy helps, but they're impressive freaking kids. He's got his business, which is thriving. He just bought his 2nd airplane. That's a big freaking airplane. And he does so many things. He's a master at car sales, at real estate sales, at sales training, sales coaching, does so many things. And what I love about Grant is that I see a lot of mediocre people that are like, oh, well, I worked really hard until I had a family, right? Or, oh, I had this dream and this goal, but once I had kids, I gave up that dream. And, it's all about my kids now. And what I love about Grant is he's like, I don't have to say this or that. He's like, this and. And he does everything at a high level. And that's what I want to model for my life. And that the way that he lives his life inspires me to perform and produce at a higher level. So those are mine. That said, I'd like to ask you guys for some negative leadership experiences. And again, not with the goal of bad-mouthing anybody or dwelling on it, but there are lessons that we can take away. I'll share one of mine. So a lot of you guys know I play rugby, and Kayla, you heard the story last year. So forgive me for being an old man and telling the same stories again and again. But last year, man, our rugby coach was terrible. Terrible. I remember vividly, I'll be honest with you, we really didn't have a good team culture. People would skip practice or bail out on practice, or they'd come to practice but not actually practice. It was bad. And the culture on the entire team was bad. And to play a game of rugby, you need 15 dudes at a minimum, which means you should really have 30 to 45 at practice, because people die in rugby, right? So you need some replacement guys or ladies on the women's team. But our coach, like, we literally had a practice, and it was bad for a while. The culture was terrible. By the way, we were losing every single game. It was bad. And I remember this vividly. We had a practice. It was the middle of the season. We'd just come off another consecutive loss, and 7 or 8 guys showed up to practice. So we couldn't even play half of a side, right? And our coach was so angry and so pissed off that he just had us do physical fitness, or PT, for 2 consecutive hours, right? And I know a lot of you guys are athletes, and like the 20 to 30 minutes at the end of practice is bad enough. We did 2 hours of PT. Didn't even touch a rugby ball. It was miserable. And the entire time we were doing it, he was yelling at us. And he's like, this is your fault, right? He's like, if we had more guys here, we'd actually have practice. But you need to suffer, and you need to get the team to show up to practice. And I remember how I felt, right? And I mentioned already how John Kane and Jason Flynn make people feel. And I felt discouraged, demotivated. I was like, I really don't care about this team, right? I was like, I'd rather drive an hour and play for a different team that wins and feels better. And it definitely didn't make me excited to go to practice the next couple days for fear, right? So I felt a lot of fear, a lot of discouragement. And I remember that being how I felt, I had to make a confession, right? And I'll own that I used to do the same thing, right? It wasn't quite the same. I didn't make sales reps do PT per se, although I have made sales reps take laps around the office. That is true. But I remember vividly, I would have a meeting where I expected a certain number of people to show up, and not as many people as I wanted to would show. And I would take it out and run a lower quality, worse meeting for the people who did. And I remember one of the things that coach made me feel was I showed up. Why am I being punished for the other people? And when I was so resentful, it actually came out as I was talking to my wife. And if we can be honest, I was venting, but I'd like to respectfully call it debriefing. So I was debriefing the experience with my wife when I got home. And I realized, I was like, man, I've done that to my people when they show up to meetings. I'm punishing the ones who are here for the ones who aren't, when it should be the other way around. And that was something where I was able to learn from the experience and work on being better myself. So I wanted to share that outright. If I can ask any of you guys, whether you've already shared or not, but if I can get a couple of you to share your negative experiences with leadership and the lesson learned.
So when I used to work for my dad, there were times where either people would get orders wrong. Yeah, it's a restaurant. There was times where people would get orders wrong, or specifically there was one time this lady returned an order. It was like the third time somebody returned something. So he got angry and was yelling at this one person, but he was so angry to the point where he just left his team. And that wasn't okay. One, yelling at somebody for something that's not their fault. If somebody returned something, it's not your fault that they did. But just being so angry and frustrated to the point where he didn't try to find the solution, he just left. He kind of quit on it. So,
cool. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. Could I request Will or Madison, if you're able, to share one of yours? And then Kayla at the end.
I can actually.
Thank you.
So, so I don't know. I guess this doesn't really have to do with that. Well, it kind of does. So you know how we always have group projects in high school and college, and like everybody hates them because there's always like that one person who never does any of the work. Well, that one person happened to be like, I don't know, the leader of our group, who was supposed to be like the most organized. They volunteered like, hey, you know, I'll get this supplies, I'll get this, I'll do this, that, and the other thing if you guys just want to do this, that, and the other thing. So we're like, okay, cool. So we're like heavily relying on this person. Well, all of us in the group, like, you know, get done and like do everything that we need to do, while the leader of the group literally has done nothing and decided to go to parties all weekend and stay up with her boyfriend and all types of awesome stuff. So it was literally like, I don't know, I think it was like 2 days before our big presentation. She still hasn't really done anything. And then she's blaming it on us because we're rushing her. You know, she has life going on. She has this, that, and the other thing going on. And she just can't get it done. So us as a group, there was about like 4 or 5 of us. We decided, okay, fine, well, whatever. So we kind of just all do her part and, you know, substitute her out basically. And by the time it was presentation day, she was not prepared. She did not do anything at all. She just kind of stood in the background and, you know, read off the PowerPoint, did her little part. So she did not get a very good grade on that one. But I don't know, just blaming on other people and being disrespectful towards everybody else and saying how it's kind of not our thing when it was a group problem. And I don't know, just being like rude in general about it. None of us really appreciated it, and it was still, yeah.
What's the lesson?
It was really, definitely time management. Like, we all have our own things going on. You know, life happens. It happens to all of us. And if you really need help, like, reach out to other people. Like, we're a group. We're there to help you. if you have questions, go to the teacher, come to us. Like, just not putting off and like procrastination, putting off all of your work and then having the group suffer for your ignorance is it's not really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you, Madison. Mr. Will, would you be kind enough to share one of yours?
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to not have too many bad leaders in my life, but some of the only things I can think about is when I'm playing on a team and the captain, the guy that's supposed to be the leader of a team, instead of bringing somebody up when they mess up, they just put them down. And a lot of kids, they can't take that. If they hear one negative thing, they check out for the whole game. And as a captain, you should know which players to push in which directions. Some kids, you push their buttons, they get angry and they play even better. Some kids, you do that and they completely shut down. And sometimes I had captains that didn't know their players well enough. But I think the lesson is just know who you're working with and know how to best work with them and know what brings the best out in your partners.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And then Miss Kayla, you want to bring us home?
Yeah. So I had a track coach, and I feel like when you're a coach or a leader, etc., like you're leading by example, and he wasn't very good at doing that. For one, he was always like, "Oh, like you're doing this wrong," but he would never actually like show us how to do it because I'm not gonna say that, it's mean.
Yep.
He wasn't the model of what a coach should be. He was a little overweight. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah. But anyway, but like he would sit in the building the whole time while we were practicing. It was just us out there. Like he never came outside. If it was too cold, he didn't come outside. If it was too hot, he didn't come outside. He just never came outside. We never saw him. And then also another time, like when I first started, he told me I was like never gonna be fast. I proved him wrong. But nevertheless, like that's just not something a coach should say to someone. Like you should be building someone up. So just because someone doesn't have like natural talent or whatever it is, doesn't mean they can't be good. So yeah.
Cool. I appreciate you guys sharing that. Thank you. There's two things that I would like to share with you guys that I'd like you to copy down if you would. Number one, I mentioned this already, but it's interesting that as you guys were telling your stories, I don't know if you guys noticed it or paid attention to it, but when you were sharing the stories of the good leadership, every single one of you smiled, right? You shared the story, you're like, oh, this great thing, right? And then every single one of you guys, as you were sharing the story about the bad experience, I could see in your faces like tension, stress, like it brought back emotion, even though for some of you guys, this was literally years ago, right? So the biggest thing, and I mentioned this earlier, but one of the things that I learned last year that I've been working on implementing myself is the biggest thing people remember is not what you taught them, but it's how you made them feel, right? And being aware of that, being intentional about making people feel good, right? And I'll admit, especially in high pressure, tense situations, it's very easy to get real snippy and snappy. And one of the things that I'll admit doesn't come naturally to me. It's something I've had to work on. And especially the people who have been with me for a couple of years, they know this full well. But it's something I've really been working on and continue to work on. It's just making people feel good no matter what, because at the end of the day, that's what people remember for literally years to come. And then the second thing that I'd like you to copy down is the concept of the window and the mirror. And this is from a book by John Maxwell. I forget which book. He's written over 100 of them, but it's definitely John Maxwell. But one thing he shared, oh, I know what it was. It was the 5 levels of leadership. He talks about the 5 levels. That's a book that we'll really dig into and extract at some point throughout the Leadership Academy. But one of the concepts that I think is worth mentioning, because a couple of you guys mentioned it as you were telling your stories, is a low-level leader, when things are going well and the company's great and the team is winning, they look in the mirror and they're like, I did that, right? It's because of me the team is performing. And then when things go wrong, as in the example of Madison's group project that fell apart, a low-level leader looks out the window at their people and says, you guys dropped the ball. This is your fault that things are going well, right? And a high-level leader switches. A high-level leader, when things are going well, a high-level leader doesn't take credit when things are going well. Instead, they say, man, the team is doing a great job. You guys are doing well. And they pass on the credit. And when things don't go well or fall apart, instead of going to the window, they go to the mirror and say, this is my fault. I need to be better. And I will tell you, from having worked on this myself, I will admit it's not the natural thing. Right? The natural thing is when things go well to be like, hell yeah, I did that. Right? The natural thing when things go wrong is it can't be my fault. Where did you guys mess up? Right? That's the natural thing. But man, if you can practice the skill of being intentional about giving credit and being intentional about taking the blame on yourself, that builds respect and it ties in very well with making people feel good. There's a little leadership something for you, okay? So let me go ahead and start wrapping up with you, and we're going to end a little bit early tonight. I hope none of you guys are salty about that. I'm willing to stay late if you guys want to stay late. Actually, I do have a project for 2 of you, specifically Tiffany, I guess. Yeah. You made me feel.
Okay.
Anyway. Wrapping up, couple of things. Number one, I appreciate you guys being with us tonight. I do want to share what you can expect of me and what I expect of you guys as we go through the process. And I just realized my slides got a little goofy, so forgive me for bouncing around here. All right, so expectations of me. Number one, I will be on time to every single one of these. Number two, I think you guys know I don't get paid to do this. In fact, Kevin, when he first started, we were talking about Leadership Academy, and Kevin, one thing I love is that he invests in training and courses. So we were talking about it, and he was like thinking in his head, he's like, I think I've spent close to $1,000 on a course like this before. And he was like, how much does it cost? And I said, actually, it's free. And he's like, what? Right? So what I was telling Kevin is quite literally, I charge people who are not in Vector for this training. Right? People pay for it. But for Vector people, we provide it free. It's part of your experience. But I wanted to share that with you because I will prepare as if I got paid. Right? I'll prepare as if I was getting paid hundreds or thousands of dollars for this, and I'm going to commit to giving you that level of training. One of my themes, and this is new from last year, is I want to make the training real, relevant, and enjoyable. Right? I want the Leadership Academy to be a fun, enjoyable process that you guys look forward to. I want it to be real, including sharing real life positive and real life negative experiences that we've had so we can learn from both, and relevant to you guys. And I just want you guys to know that I'm 100% fully invested in your success, whether that leads you to be a branch or a district manager, whether that leads you to leave Vector completely or anything in between. And regardless of how much you sell, right? I want you guys to know that I'm 100% invested in you. And I firmly do believe that if we help you guys succeed at a high level personally, you'll perform naturally, right? But it doesn't come from a place of needing you to do anything for me to be able to get my best, okay? Here's what I expect of you guys. Actually, let me ask you guys, if you were to think of what we could expect of you, what would you guys think of? Being on time, positive attitude.
Being respectful.
Yeah, I need that in my life.
Dressing nice.
Dress well. No Marlins on your shirts.
Yeah.
What else?
Come prepared.
Prepared. I love it. Kayla says notes.
Yeah, it's the same thing as last semester.
Love it.
Bring something to the team.
Yeah, bring something to the team like cupcakes
Yeah.
or thoughts and ideas,
Never
right?
come tired
Either
or
is fine.
hungry.
Never be tired, hungry, or broke. That's Leadership Academy semester. No, that's real. That's a Leadership Academy spring semester. We'll get to it in like January.
Stay positive.
Stay positive.
Keep a good momentum.
Keep momentum.
Motivate others.
Yeah, help other people. These are all great, by the way. I love this. And I'm sure that you guys could come up with more that are super valuable. But I wanted to share, there's only 3 things that I and by the way, all of this stuff is good stuff to bring to the team. Don't get me wrong. But if I can just make it real simple and share 3 things that come to my mind that I want from you guys. Number 1 is on time. Those of you who have worked with me for a while know how much I value being on time. Obviously, right, in Will's case today, he texted me earlier. He's like, hey, I just got out of a game. I'm going to get on as soon as I can. Might be a couple minutes late. Obviously, life happens, and I can work with that. No worries. But I do ask on time, or if something does come up, that you let me know. Number 2 is simply commit to the process. And I know I started with this, and I want to also wrap up with this. But the honest truth is that there are going to be times that Leadership Academy is something that you're really excited about, right? You're looking forward to it. It's fun. It's great. But there will be times, especially, this is all of us. It's human. But especially if you're a college student and or an athlete, there will be times that other things compete for your time. There will be times that one thing makes you stressed out, and you're like, I just don't want to add another thing, right? And there will be times that just, quite honestly, the nature of being human, you won't feel like it for whatever reason, sometimes for no reason. You just won't feel like it, And that's just, it's part of the process, So what I want to ask of you guys is just commit to the process when you feel good and when you don't feel good. And as long as you commit to the process, Kayla and Bryce can vouch, everything always shakes itself out in the in-between time, right? And then number 3 is just practice what you're learning. It doesn't need to be like, oh, I go to this leadership bubble and then I leave and I'm just an average college student or I'm just an average player on my team. You can take what we're learning, like the window in the mirror or like making people feel good. Well, there'll be more lessons, of course, as we go. But I mean, that's stuff that you can implement anytime, right? So I would encourage you to practice what you're learning because at the end of the day, the value that you get from these meetings, they're going to be great discussions. You'll learn a ton, but the real learning comes from trying, right? And you'll do a lot of stuff right and you'll do a lot of stuff wrong, and it's all part of the process. And then just a couple reminders that we have our savings checkpoints for you guys, and I don't have it pulled up on my slide, so I'll send that out in an email. I think all of you guys got it in a previous email, but I will also put it in a next email. But I know $100 was the first checkpoint, and then I believe, and don't hold me to this, but I believe the next checkpoint is by October 15th. Being at either 300 or 500 total, which Carissa, it's not cumulative, right? I think it's 300 to 500 total, not 100 plus another. Either way, I will confirm the number, but I want you guys thinking about your savings plan, making sure you're on track. And then we have our SLC push and Labor Day this week. So if you guys need help coming up with a sales plan or just help to be held accountable to your phone calls, or if you want to teleconference in or Skype in to one of our team meetings or get the recording of that, let me know. And that's all the content I wanted to share. So let me just wrap up by asking you guys one question. I have a really good gauge of what I want to talk about. And I'll tell you, I said this earlier, when I made the syllabus for this season of Leadership Academy, I think it's the best one I've ever put together in 13 years. It has me sincerely excited to teach this stuff. But I do have some wiggle room in the syllabus where I could add a couple things in or modify a couple things. So I wanted to ask you guys, and you can think about this for a moment and share, but if there's anything that comes to your mind that you're like, man, I really want to learn this, or I want this to be a thing that we discuss, let me know. And I'll give you guys a minute to think about it. But if there's anything you want added to the syllabus, please share.
I did have one.
Yeah.
Taxes. I guess it's part of finance.
Yeah.
I know that when you open your own office, you're making more money, and some of these things you can write off on your taxes. But specifically, what and how?
We'll definitely talk about taxes, 100%.
How to create better funnels.
Separate from Leadership Academy, but we can talk about that.
Okay.
I was actually reading a book earlier that I was like, man, Kevin needs this in his life.
Okay. Awesome. How to blow up, make a lot of money as a district manager.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about that. That'll probably be more of a spring training kind of topic.
Okay.
But we'll definitely talk about how to produce at a high level as an office manager once we separate who's going that path and who's going different paths. 100%. What else? Any other suggestions or requests, things that you guys want to learn? Cool. I tell you what, I will tell you, I'm open to suggestions. Like I said, I've got stuff that I'm excited to teach, but under the banner of keeping it real, relevant, and enjoyable, I want to make sure there's also stuff that you're requesting. So I'm just going to give you an open invitation. If something comes to your mind tonight, if there's something that comes to mind over the course of the week, if there's something that you were just embarrassed to say because you were like, man, I just don't know how it's going to be perceived. Either way, you are welcome to text me, to email me, to make requests. And like I said, I want to keep it real, relevant, and enjoyable for you guys. And then the final thing is after we hang up here, I'm going to get to work. I've already got the skeleton of the website put together, but I'm actually going to take the recording and upload it tonight. And I will send out an email tonight or tomorrow, just depending on how long the upload takes, with a link. I am going to ask you to keep your link a super secret thing, because again, I do charge money for this for people who are not Vector people, right? But I'm going to ask you to keep your link secret. Don't share it, but take it and use it to become the best version of yourself. So that said, if you have any questions or need anything, I am available. You're welcome to call me or text me or email me. Otherwise, thank you guys again for choosing to invest your time and your energy with us. Thank you for your discussion. I love you, and I'll see you guys same time next week. See you.
Thank you.
Yes.
There were some things that I was